Good morning and welcome to the webinar on hospitality industry tax issues. I'm Sean Lyons, Executive Director of the South Dakota Retailers Association. Today's program will feature a presentation by Tony Kennebec-Aschoff and Brandy Eckert of the South Dakota Department of Revenue. Tony is a senior revenue agent and has been with the department for 13 years. In addition to her agent duties, working with tax discovery, compliance, collections, licensing, and reviews, she also acts as an instructor for external tax seminars and assists with training new agents within the agency. Brandy is a call center agent who works with tax discovery, compliance, collections, licensing, and reviews. She takes time to gather all information given by taxpayers and formulates the best response or action necessary. A couple of notes before we start the presentation. The phones of all attendees are muted, so we won't be hearing background noises. On the side of your screen, you should see a handouts panel. We have included 4 handouts that Brandy and Tony will be referring to. Just click on the handout to read it or print it. If you don't see the questions panel, you may need to maximize the panel. We'll have a question and answer period at the conclusion of the presentation. You can ask a question at any time by going to the webinar panel on the side of your screen. You should see a questions box. Just type in your question, then click on send. At the conclusion of the presentation, I'll read the questions out loud and Tony or Brandy will provide the answers. Your questions are anonymous and the department will not know who is asking the questions. We'll now turn the presentation over to Brandy Eckert. Brandy, good morning.
Good morning. Today we are going to discuss how tax applies to the hospitality industry. Please ask questions as they arise. Sales and/or use tax applies to the sale of tangible personal property, services, and products transferred electronically. If the product or service is exempt, such as it is for resale, or a government entity is purchasing it, then the transaction would be exempt. The Municipal Tax Bulletin is found on our website. It provides the current city tax rates and codes. Municipal gross receipts tax is an additional 1% tax imposed by cities on lodging, eating establishments, alcohol, and admissions. As you can see, not all cities impose municipal gross receipts tax, and the cities that do can impose it on any or all of the categories. This bulletin is updated every January and July. The next few slides will be discussing tourism tax. Tourism tax applies to lodging, visitor attractions and spectator events, recreational equipment rentals and recreational services, visitor-intensive businesses, and motor vehicle rentals for less than 28 consecutive days. Please refer to the Tourism Tax Fact to get complete listing. Tourism tax applies to admissions, parking, transportation, and the sale of product, service, food, or drink. An example of a visitor attraction is Mount Rushmore, and a spectator event is the Sturgis Rally. Tourism tax doesn't apply to art galleries. They are not considered a visitor attraction. Tourism tax applies to recreational services such as hunting and fishing guides, and recreational equipment rentals such as bicycles. Visitor-intensive businesses are busiest during summer months of June through September, where they have 50% or more annual gross income. All visitor-intensive businesses are included in this list. If your business is not included, tourism tax does not apply. Old-time photo shops are considered photography shops, not souvenir shops, so they are not subject to tourism tax. Tourism tax applies to gift shops located in other businesses if 50% or more of their income is generated from June through September. Items sold at the registration desk of a hotel is not subject to tourism tax. Tourism tax is in addition to state, city, and municipal gross receipts tax. Reporting tourism tax. It is reported on the sales tax return in the city special jurisdiction section of the return. It has a generic code of 700-1 and a rate of 1.5%. Now we'll be moving on to lodging and campgrounds. Tax applies if rented for 28 consecutive days or less. Below are some examples. Transient guest is any person that resides in a lodging establishment or campground less than 28 consecutive days. Rental of lodging or campgrounds to a person or entity for 28 or more consecutive days is exempt from sales tax. The rental of a lodging or campsite for 10 or less days in a calendar year is not subject to sales tax. Sturgis Rally home rentals do not require a sales tax license because they are rented less than 10 days a year. Any lodging or campsite that has a sales tax license is not a casual or occasional business. Meeting room rentals and optional equipment rental are subject to state and city tax. Optional food provided is subject to state, city, and municipal gross receipts tax. Items provided by the facility for customers, such as computers, cannot be purchased for resale. A facility can purchase items for resale if it will be rented or sold to a specific customer. Equipment used in meeting rooms, like projectors, are subject to sales tax at time of purchase. When renting the equipment to customers, sales tax applies to the rental as well. This chart is an example of different fees a hotel may charge. Refer to the Hotels, Motels, and Campgrounds Tax Fact to get the correct tax rate. Cribs, for example, are subject to all tax, whereas damages are subject to only state and city sales tax. If there is a mandatory charge for in-room equipment, it will be subject to state, city, municipal gross receipts, and tourism tax. Washers and dryers, along with the products sold to use in them, are taxable, but the income received is exempt from tax. This is another chart depicting additional fees a hotel can charge. As you can see, some are exempt and others are subject to state and city tax. No fees on this chart are subject to municipal gross receipts tax or tourism tax. For example, coin-operated laundry is exempt because an annual license fee is paid to the Special Tax Division of Department of Revenue. Many hotels participate in rewards programs which may be a free night stay or airline ticket. When the hotel contributes to the program, it is subject to state and city tax based on the hotel location. The monies the hotel receives directly from the rewards program is subject to state, city, municipal gross receipts, and tourism tax. Next up, we're going to discuss franchises. An example would be Subway. The royalty fee paid strictly for the right to use their name is not taxable. Training or consulting provided by the franchisor is taxable. If a taxable fee is included with the royalty fee and they are not separately stated on the invoice, the entire payment is subject to sales and city tax. An example of an exempt service a franchisor might charge is royalty fees. When a hotel does not retain ownership of an item, they may be purchased for resale, such as mini bar drinks, because they will be sold to a specific customer. Items that will be used by the customer, such as robes, are subject to tax at the time of purchase. Hunting lodges can purchase items such as food, drinks, ammunition, and guide services for resale. Be sure a properly completed exemption certificate is on file. Some exempt entities in South Dakota include municipalities, Indian tribes, and U.S. government agencies. Products and services sold to those entities are exempt from tax. When an individual working for an exempt entity makes a purchase with their own funds or credit card, are not exempt from tax, even if they'll receive reimbursement. An example of that would be a state employee on state business paying with their own funds. Governments from the following states listed are exempt from sales tax on the purchase of lodging in South Dakota. When selling to a government entity, it is important to obtain an exemption certificate or keep documentation such as a check stub to show the purchase was paid by government funds. The department does not require government entities to provide an exemption number on the exemption certificate. If a government credit card is used, keep the card number in a secure location. Federal government travel cards have a blue border and feature a U.S. flag and a large jet. The card is imprinted with "For official government travel only." Purchases made with travel cards that have a 6th digit of 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4 are subject to sales tax. Okay, excuse me, it's just the numbers 1, 2, 3, or 4 are subject to sales tax. Purchases made with travel cards that have a 6th digit of 0, 6, 7, 8, or 9 are exempt from sales tax. There are 4 different diplomatic tax exemption cards, which can include a deer, eagle, buffalo, or owl. Their purchase exemptions are listed on the front of their cards, as you can see depicted by the yellow arrows. This is an example of an exemption certificate. The circled fields, along with a signature, are required to be properly completed to be considered valid. Moving on to use tax. Use tax is when sales tax is not paid at the time of purchase. The retailer pays sales tax and the purchaser pays use tax. Use tax is the same rate as the state and city tax. Use tax applies to the entire purchase amount. For example, you purchase blankets online for $500 and the shipping is $50 charge. Use tax is due on the full amount of $550. Products and services exempt from sales tax would also be exempt from use tax. Supplies, materials, equipment, or services used by the facility are subject to sales tax when purchased. If the supplier does not charge sales tax, use tax is due at the same tax rate as sales tax. Some examples are located in the list to the right. All complimentary food or drink is subject to state and city sales or use tax. Disposable containers provided for use with complimentary food or drinks are subject to state and city sales or use tax. Employee meals furnished at no cost to an employee are subject to state and municipal use tax. We have a question? Okay.
And we can hold on to those questions until the conclusion.
Okay, we can do that. So employee meals furnished at no cost to an employee are subject to state and municipal use tax on the restaurant's cost of the items provided. Meals sold to employees are subject to state, city, and municipal gross receipts tax on the amount the meal is sold for. This chart shows how tax applies regarding vending machines. Tourism tax does not apply to sales from vending machines unless on site of a visitor attraction. Transportation and tours that begin and end within the same city in South Dakota are subject to state and city tax. If they end in South Dakota but not in the same city, only state sales tax applies. Tours are subject to tourism tax. This chart depicts how food and drink are taxed by a hotel. You'll notice food and drink is not subject to tourism tax. Additional fees or taxes imposed by cities are not subject to sales tax. Additional fees imposed by the resort would be subject to sales tax. Fees associated with the reservation systems are subject to tax. When fees for reservation agencies are based on the sale of a room, it is not subject to tax. When fees are not based on the sale of a room, such as a flat fee, it will be subject to sales tax. Next, we're going to discuss restaurants and bars. On this slide, you'll find some examples. Everything but voluntary tips are taxed at a bar or restaurant. If the bar or restaurant is located in a visitor attraction or spectator event, tourism tax would apply. Containers provided free of charge to the customer that are used to hold a food or beverage sold can be purchased for resale and are not subject to state and city sales or use tax. Containers the retailer reuses are subject to state and city sales or use tax when purchased. Items that are not containers are subject to state and city sales or use tax when purchased. Examples you'll find below. Discounts can include coupons, complimentary meals and beverages, or buy one get one free. For coupons, if the retailer receives no reimbursement, it is not taxable. If the retailer receives reimbursement from a third party, it is taxable. Catering is subject to sales tax, city tax, municipal gross receipts tax, based on the location of the catered event. A caterer can purchase the following items for resale: food and disposable containers to include plates, glasses, cups, and bowls. Entertainment services are subject to state and city sales or use tax. Cover charges are subject to state, city, and municipal gross receipts tax. The entertainer service may be purchased for resale when a bar has a cover charge. Many bands are not licensed in South Dakota, so it is the retailer's responsibility to remit the tax on the amounts paid to the band if they are not charged sales tax. Food, including condiments, beverages, and clothing items to be sold to the customer, can be purchased by the restaurant or bar for resale. When food is provided to customers at no charge, state and city sales or use tax is due at the time it is purchased, or when removed from a tax unpaid inventory. Municipal gross receipts tax does not apply to food or drinks provided free to the customer. Cash registers and cleaning services are examples of use taxable items for bars and restaurants. With amusement machines, tax is due on the items purchased to be used in the machine. No city tax is due because a yearly decal is purchased instead. Commissions are exempt from tax. Video lottery machines and repairs are taxable. However, the income is exempt from tax. It is not known what the customer will purchase with a gift card, so sales tax cannot be assumed at the time the gift card is purchased. It's not subject to the sales tax at time of purchase. Gross receipts includes the total amount received for a product or service excluding sales tax that is itemized on the invoice. An example, you purchase a hamburger for $10. The sales tax rate would be 7.5%, so the total bill is $10.75. The gross receipts is the $10. The total state Municipal sales and municipal gross receipts tax is 75 cents. Businesses allowed to back out tax out of their gross receipts includes bars, amusement, and vending machine. An example invoice would be a $10 drink. To back out the tax, you would divide by 1.075 because the rate is 7.5%. So $10 divided by 1.075 is $9.30. That would be your gross receipts. The tax due, the state, municipal sales, and municipal gross receipts tax is 70 cents. All the information discussed today can be found in these related tax facts available on our website. You can contact us through our toll-free number, email, or visit a local Department of Revenue office. There's a lot of good tax information available on our website as well. We have 7 offices, and they're located in Aberdeen, Pierre, Mitchell, Rapid City, Sioux Falls, Watertown, and Yankton. The Department of Revenue stays connected through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We also have a blog. You can receive our quarterly newsletter at the link listed at the very bottom of this slide. Thank you, and that concludes the presentation.
Okay, very good, Brandy. Appreciate the very thorough presentation, a lot of good information there. We've got several questions that were submitted to us in advance of this morning's webinar, as well as a few more that came in while you were speaking. So I'm going to go through some of those. One thing, can you repeat the Revenue Department website address?
dor.sd.gov.
Okay, very good. I want to remind everyone that if you have questions, you can go to that webinar panel on the side of your screen, and you should see that questions box, and just type in your question and click on send. And we're going to try to go through a number of the questions that we've received, and I'll start with the first one. When a hot beverage is dispensed from a machine, is that taxed at a different rate?
That would be taxed at the municipal gross receipts because 2 or more ingredients are mixed together. So it would be 4.5 to the state, 2 to the city, and an additional 1 if the city that it's being dispensed in has the municipal gross receipts.
If I charge 18% gratuity on meals for large groups, my accountant told me I'm supposed to charge tax on the gratuity. I thought tips were not taxable. Can you clarify?
Tips are not taxable if they're voluntary. If they're mandatory, put on the invoice or the receipt, they become taxable. Only voluntary tips are not taxable.
So in light of their question, that would be taxable, correct?
That is correct. The mandatory gratuity fee would be taxable.
Okay. For tourism taxes, how does the state determine that a business is a tourist attraction?
It's listed by statute.
And can you maybe give a little more clarification or detail on that statute? I'm familiar with it, but for a lot of our folks, they may not be.
We're going to keep going with the question. We'll go back to that one.
Okay. What are the sales taxes in rural Hughes County?
4.5, it would only be the state.
My hotel is located just outside the city limits. The city has a bed, board, and booze tax. Am I supposed to charge that?
No, it would only be state and tourism tax.
If it's a private event and we serve and charge the consumer for alcohol, what taxes apply?
The tax would be 4.5 to the state, and then any applicable city tax, including municipal gross receipts tax, and depending on where it's located, it could be subject to tourism tax.
The state takes money as a tourism tax. What do they do with it, and does the payer get any say in that?
The payer does not get any say in it per se. It goes to the Department of Tourism to fund tourism stuff. I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah, and I guess I can, and that would probably be along with the statute. It's obviously for tourism enhancement efforts. I also think that a portion goes to the arts in South Dakota, and I think I may be missing one other, but would be helpful if you're able to go back and pull up that statute.
Yep, I'm working.
Thank you, appreciate it. Can a business apply for an exemption to the tourism tax? I'm asking because South Dakota is a summer tourism state. I have a winter intrinsic business, but still get tagged with the tourism tax.
No, a business cannot. It's, again, goes back to the statute.
My hotel has safes in the room, and I charge a fee for the safe. Is that fee taxable?
Yes, it would follow the room tax rate.
Okay. In my bar, I have free popcorn for the customers. How is the tax figured on that popcorn?
The tax would be figured, it would be use tax, and it would be state and city only. Municipal gross receipts tax is not due on free giveaways or use tax.
Okay. I have to purchase my alcohol from the city and pay a markup fee to the municipality. I include that markup as part of the price charged to my customers. Currently, I charge tax on the total purchase price, including on the markup. Could I add the markup after the tax?
No, the tax is due on the selling price.
If I give my staff free meals during their work hours and I give them a discount on the meals during non-work hours, what tax is owed on those free and discounted meals for employees?
Use tax on the free meals would be state and city tax. Sales tax would be on the discounted meals, which would be state, city, potentially municipal gross receipts.
If state or federal employees stay at my hotel when they're in town for meetings, am I supposed to include tax on their bill?
We have to follow the money. If the money comes from the employees and they're being reimbursed, it is taxable. If the money is coming from the federal government or the state government, it is exempt.
If I buy uniforms for my employees, should I be paying tax on them where I purchase them? What if the supplier doesn't charge tax?
If the supplier doesn't charge tax, then it becomes a use tax liability. Again, that would just be state and city tax.
A local school group is selling coupon booklets for a fundraiser, and my restaurant has a coupon in that book. When customers bring the coupon in to get a discount on their meal, how do I figure that tax? Is it based on the original cost of the meal, or what I charge the customer after I deduct the coupon?
The tax would be due based on the amount of that you're selling, the selling price. So if you're selling if you discount something down to $5, tax is due on the $5. If you're being reimbursed by a third party for that coupon, then the tax would be due on the $10 item, if the item is worth $10. So it depends on how the coupon is listed.
I'd like to go back to the question on discounted meals to employees. Is the tax based on the original price before the discount or on the amount the employee actually pays me?
On the amount the employee actually pays you.
Are video lottery receipts subject to tax?
No. You do include them in your gross receipts, and then you put them in your non-taxable item.
And we've got a few more questions that were submitted, and some of them may be repetitive, but that will have you clarify again just to be sure. Regarding government employees staying in my motel, can you explain again when I should charge tax for government employees from other states when they stay at my motel? It looks like some states are exempt and some states must be charged tax on their rooms.
We have on our tax facts, we have an exemption certificate tax facts, and that lists out there when they're taxed. Basically, if the other state has an exemption for our state employees, then we honor that, and then state employees traveling are exempt. If the state does not honor our state employees traveling with governmental funds, then we do not honor it either.
The governments from other states or the District of Columbia are exempt from sales tax if the law, oh, I'm sorry, Tony, this was your response, I apologize.
Nope, that's fine.
Can you, no, sorry about that. Can you explain again what types of restaurant items are and aren't subject to tax when I purchase them, such as napkins, straws, paper cups, bags, plastic knives, and forks?
If they're a container that goes with the food, then you're able to purchase it for resale. But if it's an added bonus per se, like a fork or a napkin or a bag, then you would owe sales tax and or use tax.
Could we maybe have you read some of those examples, as people may be watching on a small screen or they may just be listening on the phone? Would you be able to go through that a little bit?
Yep. Okay, so some examples of containers are paper cups and lids, wrapping paper, styrofoam containers, paper and plastic bags, tape, doggy bags, pizza boxes and liners, disposable food liners. The examples that are not containers and are subject to tax are napkins, straws, utensils, usable plates, trays, or buckets, or baskets.
I offer complimentary coffee and tea in the cafeteria of a hospital. The hospital is city-owned. Do we need to pay tax on this?
The city purchases the coffee and the tea? No.
Okay. On discounted meals to employees, oh, I'm sorry, we gave you that one before. Next question. Has shipping always been included in use tax? In assuming a new position, I was told to only charge use tax on the purchase amount, not to include shipping and handling.
Shipping and handling follows the product, and about, I would say, 13 years ago, we changed it for that. So if the product is taxable, the shipping and handling is taxable. So to answer your question, no, it hasn't always been like that, but it has been for a very long time.
Regarding lodging for employees from other states, can you show that slide again with the list of exempt states?
Yep, and also we have it listed on our exemption certificate tax facts. on page 3. And then Sean, I copied and pasted it from the tax facts, but I don't know if I can post it to everybody.
Sure, and I see that you just sent a response, and so I'll read that for the audience. The governments from other states or the District of Columbia are exempt from sales tax if the law in that state provides a similar exemption for South Dakota governments. Governments providing a similar exemption are Colorado, Indiana, Iowa. Motels and hotels are not exempt. Minnesota, lodging and meals are not exempt. North Dakota, Ohio, and West Virginia. The governments from the states without a sales tax are exempt from South Dakota sales tax. Those states are Alaska, Delaware, Montana, New Hampshire, and Oregon. And I believe that we just shared that with our entire audience. How is a hotel supposed to know if another state honors South Dakota tax exempt? And I suppose that kind of falls in line with what we just talked about.
Yep, we have the 1-800 number, so they can call if they have question on it. But what I tell a lot of the taxpayers is print up that exemption certificate, tax facts, because it doesn't change. The states are not changing. So this list is pretty accurate and inclusive.
Okay, very good. Did you want to go back and talk about the tourism tax statute? I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. And
the tourism tax statute is 1045D. And so 1045D2 is the one that lists it out, what is subject to it. So tax on gross receipts of certain visitor and related businesses, there is hereby imposed a tax of 1.5% on the gross receipts from any lodging establishment, campground, motor vehicle rental, visitor attraction, recreational equipment rental, recreational service, spectator event, and visitor intensive business. And I will copy and paste this into this law into the webinar. But the 1045D chapter is regarding it.
Very good. And as one of our attendees noted, the tourism tax does help to promote and market the state of South Dakota. Do we have any other questions? Oh, we do, I'm sorry. Can you explain again when a gift shop is subject to tourism tax? Is it all year round or just the summer months?
Let me look. 50. Only the summer months. They're classified a visitor intensive business.
And as a follow-up question to that, in Sturgis, for example, the tax rate for retail would be 6.5% normally, then 8% during May through September, or 8% regular and then 8.5%. And that was a question.
Mm-hmm.
So
it would be 8% during the Sturgis rally, but it would also, a gift shop in Sturgis during the summer months would be 8% also.
Very good. And that's May 1 through September 30th?
Correct. No, June. June 1.
I'm sorry. June 1. Any other closing thoughts that Brandy and Tony you might have?
I just want to thank you for putting this on and giving us an opportunity to reach out. And we'll go back to the contact us page for different ways that you guys can, taxpayers can reach out and contact us.
We'll let you get to that page.
We encourage you to use any avenue to reach us to answer any questions that you have. And we thank you again.
Well, we want to thank you. It is a very informative and sometimes confusing topic for our members, and so we appreciate that relationship that we have with you and to try to provide information to our members. Thank you again, Brandy and Tony. This webinar was recorded. Oh, one more thing, I'm sorry. If you have additional questions, feel free to email donna@sdra.org, and we can get that answer from the Department of Revenue on your behalf. So we remind you, if you have a question, again, feel free to email donna@sdra.org, and we can get that answer from the department. This webinar was recorded, and a link to the recording will be emailed by tomorrow afternoon to anyone who registered for this program. SDRA has several other webinars coming up, including a labor webinar on April 26th and a labor market data webinar on May 17th. Visit our website at www.sdra.org for details. And again, Brandy and Tony, thank you so much for your time this morning. And we want to thank everyone for participating in today's program. We hope you have a great day.